What would you do if you heard a faint cry coming from a restroom in the dead of night and found a baby left in a cardboard box with a note, "Please take care of her"? That's exactly what happened to this man during a lonely night shift that would change his life forever. But what began as a quiet act of compassion soon spiraled into a heart-pounding fight for survival, a story about an abandoned child, sacrifice, and terrifying lengths people will go to protect what matters most. Listen to today's story, and please do share with us where you're listening from. Silas Brennan's night shift at the gas station had never felt so suffocating. The hours dragged by in a thick fog of fluorescent light, the kind that made everything feel artificial and hollow. Each minute seemed to stretch into 10, and the stillness outside only made the silence within more unbearable. The clock crawled past 3 a.m. when a strange, soft sound broke the monotony, a whimpering, almost like a kitten. It came from the restroom. Curious and concerned, Silas opened the door and froze. There, on the floor, was a cardboard box tied with twine. Kneeling down, he opened it to find a tiny baby girl, sleeping on an old towel, a note placed beside her. "Please take care of Ellis. I can't." His heart clenched so hard it felt like it might tear in two. Though every instinct screamed at him to call the police, something deeper, something raw and wordless inside him, held him back. Silas walked to his car with deliberate steps, his breath catching in the night air. He opened the passenger side door and secured the box gently on the seat, instinctively placing his jacket around it for warmth. For a long moment, he just stood there, one hand on the door, watching the baby's face. "Tonight," he murmured to himself, "you stay with me." When Silas walked into their apartment with a cardboard box in his arms, Lena Whitlow stared at him like he'd lost his mind. But when she saw what was inside, her expression softened. Years of infertility had drained her spirit, leaving her hollowed out and quietly grieving a dream she had slowly come to believe would never come true. The endless doctor's visits, the hollow reassurances, the pitying glances, all of it had worn her down, stripping away the vibrant woman she once was. But this tiny girl, with her soft breaths and fragile fingers, sparked something deep inside Lena that she thought had been lost forever. A flicker, a warmth, a long-buried instinct. "She's beautiful," Lena whispered, gently touching the baby's cheek. They named her Ellis. Just for the night, they told themselves. But Ellis brought warmth back into their home. And for the first time in years, Lena sang again, laughed again. The next day, as the sun dipped low on the horizon, a black SUV rolled into the gas station. Out stepped a tall, broad-shouldered man with cold eyes. He introduced himself only as Rhett Maddox. "Heard you found a baby," he growled. Silas felt the blood drain from his face. "I don't know what you're talking about." Rhett smirked, handed over a card with just his name and number, and walked away. That smile haunted Silas. Something wasn't right. That night, a brick crashed against their door. Attached was a note scrawled in large, jagged letters, "Return her." Silas knew this was no coincidence. The note, the timing, the sudden visit from a stranger who somehow knew exactly what had happened. It was too specific, too personal. Whoever this man was, he wasn't just curious, he was threatening them. And Silas realized with a sinking feeling that they weren't just dealing with a man who wanted answers. They were dealing with a man who would go to dangerous lengths to get what he wanted. He called Rhett, demanding answers. "You playing hero now?" Rhett snarled. "Return the girl, or regret it." Silas realized they were being watched, hunted. Silas began searching for clues about Ellis's origins. Days passed in a haze of phone calls, internet searches, and quiet conversations with anyone in town who might know something. He talked to a retired midwife, checked missing persons bulletins, even scanned hospital records through an old friend who worked in admissions. The longer Ellis stayed with them, the deeper his resolve grew. This wasn't just about doing the right thing anymore. It was personal. Finally, through a mutual acquaintance, he reached Callie Rhodes. Her voice trembled over the phone. "You found her?" she whispered. They agreed to meet in a quiet, abandoned park. There, wrapped in an old coat, Callie broke down. Rhett was her ex, abusive, manipulative, and increasingly dangerous as time went on. When Callie found out she was pregnant, she hoped, briefly, that it might change him. Instead, it made him crueler. He told her flat out that he didn't want the baby. He demanded she get rid of it, pressured her to terminate the pregnancy. And when she refused, his threats became physical. She feared for her life, and even more for the life of her unborn child. After Ellis was born, the danger only escalated. She knew she had to get out, but had no one to turn to, no safe place to go. In an act of desperation, she swaddled her newborn in a towel, placed her gently in a cardboard box, and drove to the only place she thought someone might find her, a gas station on the edge of town. Just as Callie finished her story, headlights pierced the night. The black SUV screeched to a halt. Rhett and another man burst out. "There she is," Rhett shouted. "Give me my kid!" Silas jumped between them. "She's not yours!" A violent fight broke out. "Lena, go!" Silas bellowed, managing to shove Rhett back just long enough for her to sprint toward the car. She clutched Ellis to her chest, threw open the driver's door, and slammed it shut behind her. Tires screeched as she sped off, her eyes wild with panic. Rhett let out a roar and turned on Silas, pulling a knife from his coat pocket. The blade flashed under the street lamp, and for a moment Silas froze, but then, a sound in the distance, wailing sirens growing louder, and he fled. At the police station, Callie filed a report. Rhett was now a wanted man. Authorities promised protection. Lena and Silas, though utterly heartbroken, made the painful decision not to pursue custody of Ellis. The emotional bond they had formed with her in such a short time was undeniable. She had lit up their home, stirred a love they thought had been buried by years of disappointment. And yet, they knew that as deeply as they loved her, Ellis had a mother who had risked everything to keep her safe. Callie, for all her flaws and mistakes, had shown genuine remorse and a fierce desire to protect her child. They believed Ellis deserved the chance to be with her birth mother, to grow up knowing where she came from, and to be loved by the woman who had given her life. Letting go wasn't easy. It tore at every fiber of their being. But in that moment of goodbye, with tears falling and arms wrapped tightly around the little girl they had come to call their own, they felt a strange kind of peace, because they knew they had done the right thing. They said goodbye with tears and trembling smile. The apartment felt empty without Ellis, but something had changed. Lena and Silas had changed. They began the process of adoption, finally ready to become parents, not because they needed to fill a void, but because they had discovered something powerful within themselves. Their time with Ellis had unearthed the kind of love they hadn't known was possible, one forged through fear, protection, and sacrifice. It was no longer about biology or bloodlines. It was about the strength of the heart, the commitment to nurture, and the willingness to open their home to a child who needed them. They started researching agencies, filling out paperwork, and attending parenting workshops. For the first time in a long while, they felt purposeful. They weren't just ready, they were eager. One night, Lena sat beside Silas, flipping through pictures of Ellis. "You know," she whispered, "I think she came into our lives to show us what love really means." Silas wrapped an arm around her. "She saved us." Outside, the moonlight blanketed the quiet town, and inside, two hearts beat steady with hope, ready to open their door to another child in need. What do you think of today's story? Do you think Silas and Lena should have agreed to give Ellis away, or they would have been a better fit as parents to her? Please share your thoughts in the comments below, and thank you so much for tuning in to Storyline Narratives.